Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And welcome to Talking with Teachers. I'm your host, Dr. Abdullah bin Hamid Ali. And today we have a very special guest. Imam Zaid Shakir is known for many different things. Imam Zaid has been listed among the 500 most influential Muslims by the Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center in Amman, Jordan. He is the co-founder of Zaytuna College. He's also a co-founder and chairman of United for Change, whose stated goal is to leverage the diversity of the Muslim and interfaith community and address divisive obstacles. He's served as the Emir of Muslim Alliance in North America, also known as MANA, from 2020 into 2022. He is the founder of Masjid al-Islam in New Haven, Connecticut, the founder of the Lighthouse Mosque in Oakland, California. He's a scholar, a leader, a mentor, an environmentalist, and an all-around good person. Of course, there's so much that I could say about him. Imam Zaid has been very special and has done so much for me in my life. I'm quite sure that a lot of other people have experienced the goodness of this man. May Allah preserve him. So we'd like to bring to the screen our Imam Zaid Shakir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, alhamdulillah, barakallah fiqh, Shaykh. It's really an honor once again to have the opportunity to speak to you and to introduce more information about you to our audience as well. I typically like to begin to speak to my guests about their personal journeys because, as you know, that quite many people like yourself are known publicly. There's a public profile, but of course, people don't know sort of the background and how you came to where you are today. Of course, a lot of people don't know that. For myself, I've been following you since I was a teenager. And first met you in Philadelphia some years ago, and then of course eventually spent some time with you overseas in Morocco, where you stored your books. My apartment, yeah. But inshallah, I mean, what's your family like? What was it like growing up, and what eventually sparked your interest in Islam?
Yeah. So yeah, I remember coming through Philly. We call those the heady days of the revolution. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, my family, my father is from Battle Creek, Michigan, which is really it's a historical music hub.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a stop on the Chitlin circuit, and a lot of renowned musicians, such as Junior Walker and the All Stars, they came out of Battle Creek. And a lot of virtually everyone who's Earth, Wind and Fire came through there. Renowned jazz artists came through. So my father was actually a jazz saxophonist. He spent a lot of time in Chicago really honing his craft. It was very good, but he didn't make the transition from I don't know which came first, from bebop to swing or swing to bebop. He didn't make the transition, so his career kind of was curtailed at that point.
MashaAllah, yeah.
Was also an evangelist. Was like a tent revival evangelist, preacher, going around from place to place spreading the gospel.
Okay.
So that might have been some genetic influence there.
Right.
And my mother's she was born in Hamilton, Georgia, which is in the heart of the Cotton Belt, near the Alabama border in Georgia. She was one of 13 children. Her father was a sharecropper. I picked cotton because when the cotton harvest was, when it was time to harvest the cotton, we would have a big family gathering. Everyone would come and cotton. So I remember as a little boy dragging a big long burlap sack and stuffing it with cotton. Then there'd be a big feast. And so the sharecropper, it was a more sophisticated form of slavery. Because throughout the year, when there was no crop, the sharecropper would borrow from the owner of the land, owning the land. and accumulate debt. So you're paying to rent the house, you're paying money to get food, etc. Then when the crop came, you got a share of it, but most of it went to the owner of the land. And so you
Oh,
start the cycle all over again.
right.
But alhamdulillah, my uncle, we call him Uncle JC, he eventually bought the farm,
Oh, okay.
2 acres. And so when we went later in life, it was the property of my uncle. In any case, so my mother met my father. One of her older sisters had moved to Battle Creek, Michigan, got married there. Aunt Gert, we call her Aunt Gert, Aunt Gertrude, Aunt Gert, and she was married to Uncle Roosevelt, who was from Michigan. And my mother, after she graduated, in fact, my mother went to high school in Philly.
Oh, really? Okay.
To Overbrook. She was brilliant. She never got anything but A's in school. Didn't want to keep her in the South, and not really because of segregation and everything. So they sent her north. She stayed with my cousin. It was one of those cousins old enough to be your uncle, Joe Hall.
Right.
He was a detective in Philly. Anyway, so she stayed with Joe Hall and his family, and she did high school there in Philly. So she probably would have gone to college, but she met that summer after she graduated. She went to Battle Creek to visit her sister, Aunt Gert, and she met my father. And he went into the Navy. They moved out to California. I was actually born in Berkeley.
Right. So they met in Philadelphia, your mom and dad?
No. They met in Creek, Michigan.
Oh, okay, Michigan. Okay, I'm sorry.
After my mother finished high school in Philly.
Okay.
She went to visit her sister in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Okay.
And her father there, they got married. And and they moved. He was in the Navy, so he was stationed in San Diego. 1 or 2 of my brothers and sisters were born there, and he was working in Berkeley or in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And I actually went to the house they were staying in. I looked at the address on my birth certificate and went down to see the house, and it was exactly. I described it to my father. He said, "Yeah, that's it," because it's a rental unit in back of the main house. A nice, cozy little place. Right. So they went. So when he left the Bay Area, they moved back to Michigan, and things didn't work out. So my mother moved back to Georgia. By then, most of her siblings had moved to Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
And so moved to Atlanta. We were living in a public housing project called Carver Homes in Southwest Atlanta. It might have been torn down. I don't know. This part of it, I think, became part of the Olympic Village or something.
So does that mean like when your father and your mother and father were together and your father was in the Navy, that you were sort of like an army, sort of like a military child, that you were living on like the base or
No, we were living, well, maybe, but when I was born in Berkeley, he had left the military, so he was working in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And they were living on 6th Street in Berkeley.
Okay, so you went there to the projects, so after the breakup, then you went to the projects.
In Atlanta.
Okay. Oh, in Atlanta. Okay, right.
Yeah. So, and those are my first vivid memories. I can vaguely remember some things just in Michigan, just the house I remember, but nothing. But my first vivid memories are in Atlanta. So we went to.
Oh, you're pretty young, huh? And when they broke up.
Yeah. No, I was probably 4 years old.
Okay.
Because I remember going to nursery school in Atlanta. We getting cots out for a nap after having lunch and putting the cots back and all that stuff. And so then they reconciled, and father had moved to New Britain, Connecticut, a manufacturing city. At that time, it was called the hardware capital of the world. If you go to the hardware store, you'll see Stanley Works, screwdrivers, power tools. Now, Stanley Works, actually, they merged with Black & Decker, but the world headquarters is still in New Britain. And so this city was called hard-hitting New Britain. It's a very sports town, so we got wrapped up in sports. A lot of players from the NBA, NFL from there, and the area. So in any case, they reconciled. Then they split for good. And again, we were living in another public housing project called Pinnacle Heights. That one they did tear down, because I actually go by right past there. I'm only like 15 minutes from there right now.
Okay. So so they break up, they get back together, then they break up again. So
good.
about how old were you around that time?
We were stuck in Connecticut, like 4th grade.
Oh, okay. Okay. A bit older. Okay.
We moved from Atlanta at the actually 5th grade. At the end of 4th grade, I moved to Atlanta. And then in the 5th grade year, from what I can recall, that's when they split for good. And you know, it was, you know, you're young and you don't make kids promises. So I was always angry at my father because he said, I'm going to get you a bicycle for Christmas. So we weren't Muslim at that point. Get you a bicycle for Christmas. And Christmas came, no bike. Get you a bicycle for your birthday, which is at the end of May, and no bike. When school gets out, because back then that was pre-global warming. You had snow days. School didn't get out to like June 20th, June 25th. No bikes. I was just furious, and I developed a very vehement dislike for my father.
You're young.
My mother, and then my mother's situation, seeing her going through, but now she has 6 children.
Right.
And several years later, 6th, or 7th, little brother, who's like maybe 8 years younger than me. So in any case, but you know,
because you're growing up in the projects, right? You know, and so like, how would you did your mother sort of raise you? I mean, did you say she raised you with like religious consciousness, or
I would say more of a social consciousness.
Okay.
Because she was religious. We went to church every Sunday, but she did become a bit skeptical later in her life. I mean, she died at 39, so later in life was relative. Yeah. And but religious consciousness, you know, old-fashioned, you know, discipline. Like we couldn't like braid our hair, because this is the 60s, and coming out of the 60s, and you braid your hair and you get a big afro. When you take the braids out, till the rain hit it, then it would shrink. But we couldn't. We had to have like the short haircut, wingtip shoes. She make us one suit, because she sewed. She was a really good seamstress. She make us one suit for school. She said, if you want more than that, you have to go pick tobacco. So we hit the tobacco fields in Connecticut River Valley. Connecticut River Valley, and between Hartford and Springfield, Mass, is the most ideal climate on earth for growing cigar wrapper tobacco. And so Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. actually worked in the tobacco fields in Simsbury, Connecticut.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I worked in those cities and those fields, the same Bloomfield, Simsbury, Holbrook Brothers tobacco. I used to have one of my pay stubs. The base pay was like $1.11 an hour. But piecework. And so like me and my friend, we were breaking records, man. We were hustling. You could pick the tobacco or drag it out. So you pick it and you put the stacks on the ground, and then the dragger would come with a basket and drag it out. So, you know, we would hustle, and we would go to New York and to Delancey Street to buy clothes in New York. So we come with the mohair pants and the Bly shirt, sweater shirts, and the we used to call them what do we call the shoes? I forget. and the pimp socks. We call them.
Yeah, I remember those.
Remember the pimp socks?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So alhamdulillah, we had a very good childhood, and
Mm-hmm.
in that regard, spent a lot of times in the. It was just a huge housing project, but right in back of it was a massive expanse of forest. So we were constantly hiking. We were salamanders and spring peeper, tree frogs, bring them to the pet shop and sell them.
Yeah, yeah. All the good stuff that kids don't do today too much.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it's sad. I don't know what
Yeah.
my would be like, but that was sometimes I would go to the woods alone and just sit there in the snow under a pine tree where it still got some protection against the snow and just reflect and ponder. So yeah, that was childhood. But I think in terms of Islam, I think one turning point, I don't even know where it came from. Back then, you still had prayer in school.
Okay, right.
So every Wednesday, you have prayer in school, or you get bused to your church and for prayer service. So when we have prayer, oh no, in the morning, you start the school day with prayer.
Right.
And so I remember distinctly, I don't know where it came from, just saying to the class, we have to face the east and pray to Mecca. Yeah, I was in like maybe 5th grade.
Okay.
I very distinctly remember that we have to face the east and pray to Mecca. So I don't know where that came from. I must have.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, all I remember is like the Pledge of Allegiance, to the flag, that we would have that in the morning, but no prayer, So I guess they changed it by the time I was in. Right. Yeah.
Supreme Court decision, they got rid of parents. So in any case, so that's something I distinctly remember. Then we're wrapped up in the sports. In junior high, we had midget football, and
what does that mean? Midget football.
Midget football will be like Pop Warner nowadays. I'm sure somewhere the Cromwell Knights, actually one town over, depending on the way you're going, they had a Pop Warner team. Whatever.
Okay. In other words, they just call it midget football because you're all young. That's why they call that. Okay, all right.
Junior high school.
Okay.
So now they will call it 13U, 14U.
Okay.
So 14 and under, 13 and under. 13U, 14U, Pop Warner, AYF, American Youth Football. And so I got wrapped up in that. Then we used to play basketball until the lights went out. Then if the games were good, the older guys would pull their cars up and turn the headlights on. So even after the lights went off, like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, guys would pull up and turn their headlights on the cars, and we keep playing. And go climb the fence at the swimming pool because the pool closed at like.
Yeah. What position did you play most of the time?
My best position was running back, but I got the growth spurt and got real lanky, so then I play receiver. But that was because my hands were suspect. I had to speak, but I'll be honest, my hands were suspect. That's why running back was better.
Okay.
But then when I had the growth spurt and stretched out and got lanky, I had to switch positions.
Right. So it sounds like
defense too, because I was a monster on defense. I had to hurt people, so I ended up in high school. I got hurt myself.
Oh, really?
It was like a legalized way to be violent.
Yeah.
You didn't have to join a gang. You just joined the football
team. Right. Yeah.
Which kept a lot of kids out of trouble. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have that to relieve that frustration and some of the things you're dealing with as a teenager, and you're growing up in the circumstances and the beefs and petty things that go along, if you didn't have that outlet, Allah knows what might have happened.
Right. Exactly.
Myself and a lot of other guys.
Yeah. That was one of the problems when we used to live in Chicago, and when we moved from Chicago to Philadelphia, that was one thing that I noticed right away, was that there were not a lot of activities for young people. In Chicago, there was a lot. I mean, the recreation centers had all types of programs, swimming, softball, baseball, basketball, gymnastics. They had all types of things there, So, and then when I came to Philly, the only thing I could do in Philly is breakdance.
And it makes a huge difference, because I know, a lot of people who would have gotten in trouble. But like you said, you had the rec center, and then they had the gym. You the rec center, you had the gym. It was in a elementary school, and kids would just play basketball all night. Gym was open. In the summer, you had summer jobs. Like I picked the tobacco, but I worked as a youth track coach. My team always won because I would buy them ice cream if they ran hard in practice. So heats came, we would stomp everybody, because they probably couldn't get the other kids to practice. Let's say the ice cream, the Mr. Softy ice cream come
Yeah.
let's go. I'll buy your
They used
ice
to be
cream.
everywhere. They used to be everywhere, especially in the summer, all over, like, the inner city. Yeah. Mr. Softy. Now it's hard to find them. It's hard to find them these days.
Yeah, it's part of life. I think our time coming up, it was a lot richer. Like, you had the rec center, you had various programs. You had, I was a janitor in school, and they trusted me to lock up, because I would go to practice, track practice, football practice. I ran cross country and football, and then I would go back to the school and mop the floors, put the oily sawdust down, mop the floor and brush it out, empty the trash cans, mop the buffer, put the wax down, buffer the floors, and then lock the school up.
Right. So that was
Yeah, and that's in junior high.
Right.
I had two paper routes at one point.
Okay.
I had a morning paper. Back then, the youth did the paper routes. Well, I guess now they don't have paper routes, but I know after there was a period, adults would do it. But I had a morning route before school, and I had an afternoon route after school. Incredible coin collection, because people would pay you usually in change. It was like $75 a week. So I had silver dimes and quarters and head nickels and all this stuff, man. And then I gave it away to a friend of mine. Now I probably would be worth a significant amount of money.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Especially with inflation, serious.
Inflation, and it's pure silver.
Right. Yeah.
Dimes, silver dimes and quarters. So, but alhamdulillah, it was good. It was good.
Right. So it sounds like, of course, that your father, of course, once your father leaves, it sounds like he's not really involved in your life that much, so your mom, is just you and your mom and your siblings but eventually you go into the military. Yeah. So I know this about your biography. So how old were you when you went to the military?
Well, the reason I went in the military is because my mother passed away.
Oh, okay.
The spring semester, my freshman year, in the middle of the semester. My first semester, I dropped out because I got injured. I separated my shoulder. Then they do surgery. I found out you could have this surgery, but our coach, man, he was the football coach. He loved you until you were ineligible.
Yeah.
Once you played the last game of your senior year, he didn't know you. He passed you in the hall, wouldn't even speak. Like, you got injury, wouldn't try to get you surgery. He wouldn't try to get you a scholarship. No, you had to do all that, or the scouts came to practice and they make their own personal connection. This guy was horrible. And he would come to the projects, pick us up. We didn't have to take the bus to school. He'd come pick us up. Your sophomore, junior, senior year. As soon as you played your last game, which was on Thanksgiving, senior year, this guy didn't know you. Passed you in the hall, and like he didn't even know you. And the guy won more state championships than anyone in the history of the state. It was on talent.
Yeah.
His coaching, man. But then he didn't know you won him a championship. The guy didn't know you. Then the baseball coach was a racist. African American players on his team.
Mm.
One brother, he recently passed away, and I feel bad because I actually would keep up with him a little bit, but then I dropped off. But his name was John Henry. He's a phenomenal baseball player. He couldn't even play high school baseball. So that's it, you know. You get drafted out of high school to the minor leagues. He would not let an African American player on the team. Guy, total racist. The track coach was incredible.
Right.
He's like in the track Hall of Fame.
So your mom passes, and then okay, you say you decide it's time for you to go into the military.
Yeah. So my mother passed away, right? And so we living in the projects. So this small, probably 2 bedrooms, because we used to have the girls' bedroom and the boys' bedroom, and the 6 of us. So 3 girls here, 3 us 3, and then my mother had her bedroom. And then when my mother passed away, my sister, who was married, a young family, they were struggling. She had 2 kids. Eventually, she would have 3. I gave her my room, and I moved out. So I was kind of homeless. So I was bumping around. And I tried to go live with my father, but it didn't work out. It was just too much animosity at that point. So I'm trying to. I'm thinking like I want to continue my education. Oh yeah, let me tell you, I dropped out the first semester. This is before my mother passed away. Because midterms came. The only class I was getting an A in was weightlifting. Everything else I'm cramming, and I'm saying like high school, read 10 pages and you're ready. I got to read 150 pages in this book, and I got to read the whole book over here, and man, I flunked everything.
Sound like you're ready to be a jailbird.
No. So I flunked everything, right? So the guidance counselor said you should just withdraw. Then this won't go in your transcript as an F.
Okay.
And I got a job as a janitor, Clinton, Connecticut hospital. One day, like I'm mopping the floor in the lab. So in high school, we had this laboratory techniques class. So we learned how to make all these different kind of slides to put under the microscope. Sliding. And so the lab techs, they were stuck. So I told them, nah, this is how you do this slide. I said, man, I should be doing their job. They should be I quit the next day, man. Then I re-enrolled. And when I re-enrolled, I just taught myself how to study. And so I passed, and I did decently.
Okay, where was this? What university was this?
Central Connecticut. At that point, it was Central Connecticut State College. So I re-enrolled. I said, this is crazy. And, I did decent. I probably got like a B+ average. And, but like I said, during the middle of the semester, my mother passed away. So after that semester was done, then, like I said, my sister moved in. I moved out, and eventually I drifted over to Michigan and tried to stay with my father. I actually stayed with him for a little while, but we had a big blow up one night, and which is in the winter, because I stayed that first semester. And this was when the Hawk was Hawk. You know the Hawk. You from Chicago?
Yeah, I know.
Sliding down that frozen Lake Michigan, getting all up in how many layers you got.
Right.
It was cold. I walked the streets all night. I even went to the police station to try to get out of the cold. And so I said, like, what am I going to do? I want to continue my education, but I need a place to stay. So I said, I'll go in the military. That's why I decided to go in the military.
So this was after things didn't work out with your father. Seeing you, okay, all right, okay. Makes sense.
So I said, I'll go in the military. So I went into the Air Force at that point, which, you know, I don't regret. I learned a lot of things
Mhm.
about life and people. And then I took Shahada while I was in the military.
Yeah.
Because
Why the Air Force as opposed to the Army? Most people I know they go into the Army. Why choose the Air Force? Did you want to fly planes or something, or what was it?
Oh no, I got this on my eyesight wasn't good enough to fly planes.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to. I wanted the less likely to kill somebody.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
the Marines or the Army, you're more likely to have to kill somebody.
Right. Okay.
The Air Force, unless you're flying the fighter planes or the bombers, you're not going to directly kill anybody. So Vietnam was just ending. So this was 1976. I went in, and so Vietnam War was ending. So I figured, you know, I'll get the GI Bill, which I used
Right.
till it was totally used up, and so and I went to American University when I got out. I did one between Louisiana Tech and the University of Maryland. I did 2 years of college. Then when I got out, I did my last 2 at American University, which paid for by the GI Bill. And the money that we had saved, myself and my wife had saved money, because I met her in the Air Force also. I was from Connecticut. She was from New York. She knew people in Connecticut that I knew, so I hit off right away. I was also on the spiritual quest.
Okay.
And in fact, when I met my wife, I was meditating under a tree. So I was in the transcendental meditation. So I'm sitting under the tree meditating. He rode by in this military truck, like an interesting guy. So, like I said, I went to Louisiana Tech. They had a branch on the base. Going this English class, she's in the class. And it was like, oh, you're the guy meditating under the tree. That's right. And so, and then eventually, I got introduced to Islam, taken to the masjid, which was under the Warthaddin Muhammad. Then, this is 1977, like right after the transition from the
Right. The nation,
first,
the first resurrection.
to the second resurrection. And I don't know if you remember, you might not be old enough, but when Imam Warthaddin Muhammad took over, he would have like these 5-hour lectures, man. And, and and I'm sitting on the floor like in torture, like, because I'm not used to sitting on the floor. Sit on my knees bent and squirming. And when's he gonna end? I'm not even focused on the message. I'm like, I guess that was like Tarbiyah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went through that thing.
So okay, so you're at Embrace of Islam in the Air Force. I mean, was it like somebody came to you, somebody like invited you, or it was just okay, you saw something?
Well, my wife had been in the Nation.
Okay. Oh, she was in there before you. Okay.
She was in the Nation, and then there were some brothers on the base.
Okay.
So I started talking to them. Then they gave me a copy of Islam in Focus. Hamoud Abdul Ati. They still have that book. And I want to reread it. I just out of city. But it really hit me, you know, all the things I was searching for. Islam had the answer. So I said, you know, Bismillah.
Yeah. I remember hearing you talk about how you were you're really looking into different religions, you know, that you were studying, like, you know, other, you know, of course, Christianity, you had some familiarity with that, and Buddhism and things like that.
Buddhist, the Zen path, transcendental meditation. Yeah.
So what was it? Why not become a Buddhist? Why not become a Hindu? Why not, you know?
Okay. So out of those, like I said, I went into the transcendental meditation based on the Vedic teachings, and I was doing real good. You know, I was meditating, I was real mellow, I was at peace. But I had the social quest, like, because growing up in the project, seeing what you see, how can we address some of these issues, like
Mm-hmm.
the crime, or which wasn't heavy duty, but it was there, the broken homes, the families, the alcoholism.
Yeah.
One of my friend's father, man, he was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
When he was sober, he was like the nicest guy. Then when he got drunk, he'd be like a raging maniac. I'm like, man, this isn't right. Then I mentioned on the thing they did on CNN that when I was in that first semester of college, but towards the end of the semester, so we're in December, late November, it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at this party in this housing project, another one called Mount Pleasant. And when I was walking home, this little girl runs out of her house. She's maybe 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't anyone love me?
Mm-hmm.
That just hit me like that. I said, and no child this age should be
Yeah.
in a level of despair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that just, I said, we have to, man, we have to find a way to address this.
Mm-hmm.
And that really pushed me towards looking for a solution. So
Yeah.
I went into communism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we addressed the inequality, the poverty, the alienation, the psychological alienation with the communist program.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I went through that. And then, but I to make a long story short,
Mm-hmm.
it
So,
just, you
yes,
know,
it sound like, you know, you felt that those particular paths were a little bit too selfish, you know. Yeah.
that word I used.
Yeah.
Like, this is benefiting me,
Yeah.
but it's not benefiting anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Even though the theory was if you get 10% of the people meditating, the whole society will change. It's like a magnet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
once
Yeah.
the 10% of the molecules are aligned, then the whole bar becomes magnetic.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that 10% was a long way off. So
Yeah.
I was exactly, that's the word, selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a very selfish path
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's not addressing the social issue head on.
Yeah. Right. Now, of course, so many people, so many of us know you to be someone who sacrificed so much, and you really do care about other people. I mean, so eventually you become the imam in Connecticut. I'm assuming that was your first post, you know, at the Masjid.
Yeah, it was.
You know, how did that come about?
Well, when we came back,
Mm-hmm.
there was a masjid in New Haven. I won't say who it was affiliated with, but so, you know, we like, oh, we're free now. We're going to Juma.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to the masjid, it was closed. It was Juma. And so
Mm-hmm.
we went over to the suburban masjid. It was just one town over. Now it's not suburban because as they gentrified our city, parts of it, they pushed people over to that West Haven.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went over there, but we met people from New Haven. And they say, you know, we need an active masjid. We need to do dawah.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah. And so I had just come from Egypt. So I studied Arabic. And so it's like, oh, you know Arabic. I didn't know Arabic. I studied it for a year. So I knew it as much as you can know Arabic after studying it for a year.
So you studied Arabic while you were still in the Air Force? You were still in the Air Force when you studied Arabic?
No. When I got out.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And actually, I did I studied more than that because I did 2 years of Arabic at Georgetown University. So when I got American, they had a consortium. It was American University, University of Maryland, Catholic University of America, Howard University, George Washington, and George Mason. So if your university didn't teach something, you could go to any of those schools and study it, and it was directly credited to your transcript.
Okay.
Transfer it. So they didn't teach Arabic at American, they taught at Georgetown. So I did the summer intensive, and then the fall and spring semester from the old Michigan series. Remember the Michigan series?
Yeah. Yeah.
Book, and then
Modern Standard Arabic.
Yeah, Modern Standard Arabic. So I
CIA
did.
book. I mean, in Philly, they used to call it the CIA book.
Yeah, the CIA. We used to call it State Department Arabic.
They call it the State Department Arabic. Yeah.
But the CIA
It's a good program.
Under the State Department.
Yeah. It's a good program.
Yeah. And the teacher to Wahida. Any case. So
so you studied that in Egypt, and
no, we did that at Georgetown.
Georgetown, right? Yeah, Georgetown, but he also did Egypt, and
and then when we graduated, then I went to Rutgers.
Okay.
Or grad for masters.
Okay.
After Rutgers, we applied to Medina. So myself, Abu Muslima was our housemate. Me and my wife were renting a floor in this house. So we moved into the attic and rented out our floor.
That's at Rutgers, right?
Yeah, Rutgers.
Right. Okay.
Avenue. But one of the roommates was Abu Muslima. He took Shahada in that house.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, so we applied for Medina University, but back then they were so disorganized. So we waited to hear from them. So he waited. I just said, man, I'm going to Egypt.
Okay.
I went to Egypt and studied Arabic there for another year. And then came back to New Haven. And then back. That's when Allahumma salli wa sallim. We went to Juma, it was locked, went to over there, met the suburban masjid, met people from New Haven, they want to do dawah. So we need to get a spot and do dawah.
Right.
You're gonna be the imam because you know Arabic. So whatever. And how that happened. So we got this little spot, storefront, next to this corner store that a Yemeni brother had. So we rented from him, and then next to the store, so is the masjid, the Yemeni brothers spot, and then a nightclub. Down from the nightclub would come over the store into the masjid. So at night, we try to pray and
start dancing at the same time.
But I remember the second or third week, there was a snowstorm. And the only ones that June was me, my wife, and the sister, Iman, who was a very passionate, strong sister. Only three there. Grew and it grew and grew. So we outgrew that spot. So the next year we rented across the street. There was a sheet metal factory. And in the front was a rental space. And they had a little commercial things with a bookstore and oils. And the front space, and then behind that was the masjid. And then behind the masjid was the sheet metal shop. The sheet metal shop from the street in the back. Separate entrance and everything. Then there's an interesting thing that happened. Like June 10th, 1989 was the great tornado. A tornado came through that area. It came out of the northwest. And it came right through central Connecticut. When it happened, I was teaching political science. I got my master's, so I could teach on that at Southern Connecticut State University. I was in my office, and they had these huge windows on the end of the hallway. Both they blew out, and then the sky got green. Tornado came right through. Went to the masjid. Check this out. The building to the right of the masjid was rubble. The building to the left of the masjid was rubble. The masjid was unscathed. No windows broken. The only damage was the storm, the tornado picked the roof off the sheet metal shop, dropped it on the masjid roof. punctured, so it was one water leak from,
Okay.
which wasn't major.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the masjid was totally intact.
SubhanAllah.
I wish we had taken pictures and preserved,
Yeah.
because it was ajib, you know.
Yeah.
Rubble over here, masjid is totally intact.
Well, I mean, the other part I think is like just amazing too is that you had a tornado in Connecticut. I didn't know that you guys get tornadoes up there.
Yeah, that's why it's
Yeah.
kind of it's historic. It was like
Yeah. SubhanAllah.
June 10th, 1989. Yeah.
La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Right. So,
June
right,
or July, if you Google it, June or July. If you don't find June, it's July. One of
right.
the and
Uh-huh.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, so you established the masjid, and then eventually you decide to go overseas. Why?
Because you know it was becoming apparent that
Mm-hmm.
as my life and I'm getting older,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be working something to do with Islam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I said, that being the case, I need to learn to really learn it
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
know it,
Mm-hmm.
familiar with it, but really learn it. And so that's primary motivation.
Right. And so you chose Syria for most of your studies, and why? Why Syria?
Because when I was teaching political science, there was at that point, a young man in my class from Syria, Abdul Fattah. His name is Abdul Fattah.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him I want to go study. So he basically set everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cost of living was cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of institutes, Mahad al-Fatah, Mahad Furqan,
Mm-hmm.
Mahad Abi Noor, Kuliyat Dawah, Kuliyat Usul al-Din, Mahad al-Fatah. So you had all these, and there were 10,000 foreign students in the master.
Right. So I imagine around the time you had already sort of broken away from Imam W.D. Muhammad's community,
Right.
or I mean, were there other people from his community going to Syria around the same time you went there?
I broke away earlier.
Okay.
And actually had a lot of animosity. Like we used to, A'udhu Billah, we used to call them Warthaddin Muhammad or Wobbly Deen Muhammad, which we got from some other people.
Yeah.
Billah. The first thing I did when I got back, one of the first things when I got back, I went to the Imam and apologized. And
No, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
because I got more sense.
Yeah, I remember that time. It was pretty tumultuous time and confusing, and a lot of people. Yeah.
It was crazy. It was a crazy period.
Right. I mean, so go to Syria. You finish your studies. What year? That's in 2000, right?
2001.
2000. Yeah, 2001. That's right. We come back the same year. I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was here in Morocco, and your last year, you spent in Morocco.
If you weren't present in the country, you didn't have to go to class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Come back and take the exams. So that's when I went to Morocco.
Right.
And I came back twice for the mid-year exams and the end of the year exams.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to take advantage and working on trying to memorize the Quran in Morocco.
Right.
But I got real bad bronchitis because the Quran school is all the kids. It was underground with very poor circulation. And then they were doing Taraweeh in there, so it was cram-packed. And right after, because I think they had like a 10-day break or something from the Quran school, so kids all went home. But the Imam agreed that we could start right after Ramadan, go back to memorizing it. And so I'm sitting in there in that bad air. They didn't clean up. They just vacated everything. Right? Eid came, bam, that was it. And I'm in there. There's no circulation, bad air. I got a really bad case of bronchitis. I couldn't shake it. So I went to Hawaii. So I was there for about 6 months. Just because the air and get into a warmer climate. Because Morocco, it was cold and
in the winter, yeah. In Fez, yeah.
Yeah, the wind come down for Ephraim with the Moroccan hawk. And then you're in those concrete buildings. And northern side, where you're not getting any sun, it's like living in an ice box.
Yeah. 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 I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
So.
I went to Hawaii and then stayed there for about 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then went back to Syria to do the exams.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
after that, we came back, which is right after 9/11. We came back November 2001.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I came back in August. So right before, right before
Well,
it all happened.
that
Yes.
was easier because things were normal at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Came back, they didn't even check our bag. No one was in the airport
Mm-hmm.
except us, from what I recall.
Mm-hmm.
No one was in the airport.
Mm-hmm.
The guy didn't even check our bags, just like, go ahead. Now, we coming from overseas,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Muslim, you're like, go
Mm-hmm.
ahead. Then we go in the parking lot, all the car antennas, they have these tattered American flags. So I think after 9/11, they put them on,
Mm-hmm.
and for the weather, so you're over almost 2 months, 2 months later,
Mm-hmm.
tattered. It was like surreal.
Yeah.
And then we're driving right away from the airport. We heard this announcement that something's happened at the airport. We said, I hope they're not looking for us. Like, welcome back to America. But
Yeah.
it's an interesting time because
Mm-hmm.
people want to come to our church and tell us about Islam. Come, that it was total opposite
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
what we had anticipated. Come to our police department, fire department.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to learn about Islam. It was very interesting. And
Yeah.
the Islam phobia thing hadn't kicked in fully. I guess they were still making their plans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Avoid the situation. So that early few months was I think a great opening for Islam. You had a lot of people taking shahada. It's like now with the Gaza situation, we have
Yeah.
a lot of people taking shahada.
Yeah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. So, I mean, so your time in Syria, and of course, over the years, you've benefited quite a bit naturally from your academic studies, but also your spiritual studies. Is there any one or more people that you would say Muslims should continue to try to benefit from those people? If there's any personalities, either past or present, contemporary, who you think we should know more about?
Yeah, my primary teacher, Sheikh Mustafa Turkmani, rahimahullah,
I mean,
he was an amazing person. Like people in Damascus, he had come up on the Sheikh Hassan Habannaka. Yeah, Sheikh Hassan Habannaka had a school in Medan. It's one of the most religious part of Damascus. And Mahad al-Tawjih. And so Sheikh Mustafa Turkmani came through there, Sheikh Mustafa Khin, Mustafa Bugha, Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti, a lot of other.
Nuruddin Attar, there's so many people. Yeah.
They came through. And when they went to Azhar, they were skipped this. So this is basically a high school. When they went to Azhar for the college, they skipped the first 2 years because they had already taken all that. That was the that they were at. So Sheikh Mustafa was a qari and amazing person. Like I sat with him 5 years and never once did he speak ill of another human being. Even if someone like prompted him, like Siri Fulan qala kada wa kada. It's like what you want me to do,
Yeah, who am I?
Tell him his mother is so skinny, she's a hula hoop and a Cheerio. Like, what do you want me to do with that? Masha, he never spoke ill of anyone.
MashaAllah.
And would say in Damascus, the people, if you want to look at a Sahaba, go look at Sheikh Mustafa Turkmani. So he was, mashallah, very, but he didn't have much of I think he did tahqiq of one book, but he was more just teaching, service, khutab, durus amma. He was a mufassir. do tafsir in the Palestinian refugee camp. Where I live, we spent a period of time in one of the big Palestinian camps, Mukhayyam, Palestine. There were two big ones in southern Damascus, Mukhayyam, Palestine or Mukhayyam Yarmouk. Was before Yarmouk. We had an apartment in Palestine. But Sheikh Mustafa would go there to Mukhayyam, which was by then apartment blocks. It looked like Gaza before in the bombing. He'd go to different masjids, different nights of the week to do lessons between Maghrib and Isha. Then he had in his house, but then the mukhabarat, we would just come a handful of students and study in the masjid after Fajr, reading different books, different sciences. So,
yeah, inshallah. I mean, you've spoken before about Sheikh Badruddin al-Hassani.
Yeah, so someone with a more literary legacy, and then just he was known and tested to memorize the Sahih Sitta, the Muwatta, and he was a master of all the science, Naqliya, Aqliya, Tib, medicine, admitted sciences, the instrumental sciences, all of it. Rahimahullah. And he was also just the epitome of humility. He would never lead the prayer. Rahimahullah. He was just incredible.
Yeah.
There was a book. There's a book in Nahu, but it was a really high level book. He taught it to one of the shuyukh, and I forget his name, but he told him, he said, the last human will ever receive this book with a Senate to his author.
MashaAllah.
And that was the case.
Yeah.
But Sheikh Badruddin, I remember earlier mentioning just some of the associated with him. He's someone that people should study. He is related. He slept in a chair upright. He did 70,000 salawat every night.
Rahimahullah. I mean, of his books, is there any one particular book that you would recommend for people to read?
Well, ones that are very accessible. He has a Sharh of the Bayquniya.
Okay.
That's readily available. That's one I have. I can't think of any others, but I can inquire. But that was actually in print.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Imam Zaid, then we sort of wind down, the interview. I know your time is valuable. How can people follow your work at this point? Of course, because there's a lot that you've been doing it for a very long time, for decades, and of course.
Oh yeah, I'm getting off social media. I'm just trying to do it effectively.
Alhamdulillah.
Because with AI now and just getting people absorbed, the first major critique of television was Marshall McLuhan. It's probably around 1964. The title of his book was The Medium is the Message. The medium is the message. So no matter if you're putting out a good message, a bad message, it's being filtered through the medium. The medium has its own negative impacts.
Right.
Now with AI, I mean, the end game, and this is some of the architects like Ray Kurzweil, who was Google's artificial intelligence for a long time. He was asked, do you believe in God? He said, not yet. So we're making the supreme intellect. We're making Al-Alim. And so we're going to feed everything, you know, so
Yeah.
general AI, everything out there on the internet, everything
Yeah.
going to feed into this thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Al-Alim.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Al-Qadir, because it's going to process your data, and the algorithms are going to become so sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to create your will. It's going to create your will. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to will what you wear,
Mm-hmm.
what you watch, what you listen to, what you eat, what you consume, what you think. And so it's some, we're getting into some very dangerous territory.
Yeah, the more they study our psychology, I mean, the more they learn, and you know, the more they be able to to program us even better, right? So
No,
yeah,
no, this perfectly stated,
mm-hmm.
and with no moral or ethical parameters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Just motivated by profit,
mm-hmm.
and profit and power.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's a very powerful comment.
Yeah, that sounds somewhat like Neil Postman as well, right? You know, it seems that was part of his argument too, about the medium itself, right? Itself, with the change the medium itself, it sort of, it alters the state of human society. It actually makes us a bit more servile, and makes us a bit less nuanced. You know, it reduces our awareness, our education suffers. A lot of different things, you know, they suffer as a result of it. Yeah.
The Shallows,
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas Carr.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're constantly jumping, hyperlink, go over here. Look at this. Look at this. Go over here. Our brains are being rewired because we have neuroplasticity.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen in my family some of the young kids like would read a book. I used to read a book, 7-year-old child. We were reading Les Payne's autobiography of Malcolm X. Whenever he came over, read some. Get a page or two. Questions. 7 years old. I have this 19th century reader about farm life and the woods and nature. So I have the text, then you have the vocabulary, words, analytical questions. Time it comes over, sit down, eat the nos, the quiz on the vocabulary, answer the questions. Gets a cell phone. He's like 9 years old. Pay him to read a book.
Yeah. Well, all of us are addicted to the technology. Everybody in our households, and it's really, really, I don't know, it's really, really difficult. I mean, I think like right now. So I just think that it's going to take all of us to acknowledge it first and foremost, that we are addicted to them. It's not only our kids, it's like the adults too.
But especially the kids, because we grew up before the advent of cell phones and social media. This is Jonathan Haidt's new book,
right?
The Anxious Generation.
Okay.
And he's making a strong argument that no child should have a cell phone until they're 16.
Yeah.
Has data and a lot of information. So what I plan to do is run everything through the website.
Okay. Which website? That's New Islamic Directions,
right? Directions.
Okay.
Like blog and everything. And so nothing on Instagram, nothing on Facebook, nothing on Twitter, none of that. And because before all this, we had significant, I mean, we would get 100 comments on some things on the blog, on the website.
Right.
And so we just want to build that kind of, build that up again.
Right. Yeah.
The only reason I didn't get off before now is I was advised if you get off, someone puts up a fake one, you don't have a platform to argue from.
Right.
But we're gonna work around that, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yeah, I want to let you go, but I do want to ask you one last thing, one last question.
One more.
Right. So of course, not trying to flatter you, but of course, a lot of people call you, of course, America's Imam.
Now, that's Imam Zaid.
Well, I interviewed Imam Zaid as well, right? So there are definitely some parallels between the two of you, especially the history. A lot of people don't know about, of course, your history and the inner cities and fighting drugs and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just really being out with the people. You know, and so people don't understand what it means to pay dues anymore, and people, they're unaware of that history, and so regardless of how people may feel about you or him or any other, or your opinions, you know, I think, you know, people, you know, you deserve respect, right, for the dues that you paid, and you're an elder, et cetera, those type of things. But at any rate, what I wanted to ask is, of course, when we all saw, you know, what happened with the death of Muhammad Ali, rahimahullah, you know, and a lot of us discovered that at that time, you know, that you had been somewhat of an advisor, I guess you would say, of some particular form to him. And so, of course, that increased our love for you naturally. Say, well, you know, say, well, of course, I mean, somebody like Muhammad Ali, who we all love, loves Imam Zaid, then, you know, we want to understand, okay, well, you know, how did that come about? I mean, how did you develop that relationship?
Well, the family, they didn't want Ali's passing to be no more chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Because some major figures died and it was just chaos. They wanted thing to be planned out. And so in that context, they reached out. They had a team, and one of the professors at the University of Virginia, because the law firm that was doing all the legal stuff was based in Charlottesville, Virginia, the University of Virginia. The Muslim professor there, he recommended me, and that's how I got involved. Yeah.
Mashallah.
And so, and I actually just there were 2 days I got spent with Ali at his house. That's why I wrote him a couple of poems.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that one poem you wrote about him and you recited it to him, and
he liked that.
Yeah, he liked
He
it.
floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee. The greatest fight of the world is yet to see. His opponents agree on one thing. They all got it right. In the ring with Ali, your life was in danger that night. Had he lived during the time of Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Marciano, and Max Schmeling, his superiority over all of the former would be telling. Had he fought Tyson or Holyfield at the height of his career, on the list of heavyweight champions, their names would not appear. If reindeer could box, he would have whooped Donner and Blitzen. If presidents could fight, he would have whooped Richard Nixon. For his right filled with power and his left was relentless. He beat people so bad he have to engage in acts of repentance. So when you discuss who is the greatest heavyweight of all time, to mention any name other than Ali's is a crime. There was a part, I didn't remember it so well. The grace of a butterfly and the tenacity of a bee. He struck many a blow against injustice and inequality. Coming of age during a time of legal segregation, he came to embody the highest ideals of the nation. Refusing to go to Vietnam and pull the trigger, he quipped, "Ain't no Viet Cong ever call me nigga." That was a serious side of that.
Yeah. Subhanallah. Yeah. Subhanallah. Yeah. I forgot to add to your bio that you're a poet as well, right? All right, Sheikh, now I really appreciate it. You know, hopefully we get another opportunity to speak on some other topic, you know, more substantive. You know what I mean? But of course, there's substance here. I'd like people to know more about all of our leaders. Hopefully it increases people's appreciation for people like yourself, and, you know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve you and increase you and bless you.
And yourself, I'll reward you for all the great work you're doing.
Alhamdulillah.
And Allah continue to bless you in those regards and keep you well for the ummah.
Alhamdulillah.
You guys are the, you know, the next, the reinforcements.
Inshallah.
Oh,
Inshallah.
It's really beautiful to see that so many people under us are you know, picking up the banner and marching forward. It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful to see all the young brothers getting. I know a lot of young brothers, 20, 21, senior in college, getting married, and see them with their little wives, and
Yeah, and children sometimes too. Yeah.
see that is heartening, because
Mhm.
how many people have been even removed from that? They're not thinking about marriage, family, the responsibilities of manhood, etc. So, inshallah, the ummah is in good hands. We definitely have challenges, but there are a lot of very encouraging developments. And may Allah bless the positive to far, far outweigh any negatives.
I mean. Barakallah feek. Appreciate the prayers. Inshallah. Until next time, Sheikh. Let's take care. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and support. Check the links in the description below to keep up with our work. Thank you.